Welcome back to the Alight podcast. I am really delighted to be bringing you another conversation with Rachel Pfotenhauer of Vast Earth and Sun Raya. Rachel was interviewed in a very early episode of the Humans and Earth podcast. That episode is still available. We talked about Earth and connecting to Earth. Today, we are focused on soulful authenticity and the unfolding of life purpose. Rachel is a licensed professional counselor, a psychic, a channel of earth, a certified theta healing practitioner. She has worked as a professional counselor for decades and also works very extensively with earth energies, herbs, has a new line of really, really beautiful channeled earth-based facial care products. We'll probably talk about that. But first, I'm going to invite Rachel to tell us about whatever she wants to share about her unfolding stages of life purpose. Because, Rachel, you have been on a really purposeful and focused trajectory. And as I mentioned to you before we started recording, I thought it would be interesting to bring you back onto the podcast because I see your unfolding of purpose and authenticity as just kind of continually expanding. And I'd love for you to tell us about your sense of that.
Well, first, thank you so much for having me here. I really appreciate it. Um, so the unfolding for me has been very somatic and very synchronistic. So it started with going to college, being a typical college student, and then thinking, okay, I want to try the corporate world. And this is years ago. And I did the corporate world and I just, nothing about it fit for me. And it fits for a lot of people and that's wonderful, but it didn't fit for me. And so I took a job in another corporation, but smaller and more personal interfacing with people while I tried to figure things out. And I was living in San Francisco, going on a run. My roommate was wanting to be a photographer at the time, and I always loved photography. And I remember stopping at this creek that was running through Golden Gate Park and having a very visceral experience. And I had this epiphany of I need to be a photographer. And when you're young, it's the power of ignorance, right? So didn't think about how I'm going to make a living, none of that. And I was taking a photography class at UC Berkeley, and there was images of Lewis Hine factory child labor. And we were discussing Lewis Hine's work. And I had recently been in Colorado where my brother lived, and I'd never been into a Walmart. And I had gone in and I was looking at the prices. And was thinking, how is this so cheap? And this is before internet, by the way. And I'm watching this Lewis Hine presentation or on Lewis Hine, and I'm thinking there's factory labor being done. And this is what I want to do. I want to go into social editorial photography, social and political editorial photography. So I went to the library and tried to research as much as I could, and I realized I got to go to these places. This is the only way I'm going to find out because all there was information back at the turn of the century, right? There was nothing current. So, long story short, I went to Asia and started photographing children working, and then really got more clear and moved into factory child labor and found that in India. So came back to the States and really tried to publish that. And in the States, I kept getting rejected from magazines. This is too difficult to look at. And there was a lot of writing that went along with it, right? It was a story. It wasn't like the photojournalism that you put up with one story. So, and I got into, I can't even think of what, the stock agency in Paris and New York, and also got into some magazines in Asia and Southeast Asia. Then I ended up moving to the southwest of Colorado and working for my brother's company, Osprey Packs, and doing photography on the side because I couldn't make a living at both in that way of editorial photography. Then, so I went and I did work in Iceland as a photographer. I went to Cambodia and I worked with landmine victims and wrote about that. I went and spent a bit of time up in a redwood where a woman named Julia Butterfly Hill was living for 2 years. Yeah. And I was about to move to Cambodia because I was really going to step into being a full-on photojournalist. And two things happened. One was 9/11, and why that impacted my business is because all the magazines folded and the economy dumped, right? So that killed things overnight. So I was like, well, I'm still going to go to Cambodia. And I'd been with my now husband for 4 years and we got pregnant. So I said, I'm not going to Cambodia now. So I became a wedding photographer. And that wasn't really my gig. And so I'm wondering what's up now? Because I love the creative arts, but also things were changing. And when I was in Cambodia, I remember I was working with a counselor, and she said, Rachel, you seem far more interested in the subject and what they're going through than in the actual images. And that stayed with me. And I was thinking, that's so true. Because it never felt like the power of photography can be immense. Eddie Adams put out the photograph of the refugees, and President Carter took a look at it and it changed a lot of things, opened the doors for them. And so I know it had a potent impact, but it wasn't for me. And it wasn't, I was in the middle of an incredibly rural area. I wasn't living in New York City or Paris, where that kind of work, you had to become pretty famous to have that kind of impact, and it wasn't happening. So my next step was, okay, I have to feel this because I believe that our purpose is in our body and there's goals, which are what we think and what we want, but then there's destiny and soul purpose. It's like the soul seeds, the destiny templates are in the body. And you can't get to them without deeply listening, in my opinion. So I kind of was just thinking about, okay, I was very interested in my subjects. And then two things happened. One, I was visiting a friend out in California, and her friend was a well-known palm reader. And she said, I want to send your fingerprints to him. And so we put pink lipstick all over my hands, took a photocopy, and sent it to him. Okay. Then I'd been working with the Dene people, which are formerly known as the Navajo and the Ute. And so they'd been inviting me to ceremony. And I was in the Native American church, and my friends were hosting the ceremony at their property, and they invited me. And you're up all night, right? And you're in deep prayer during these. And you have a break, and she and I went out, and she's like, you would be a good counselor. And I said, my dad was a counselor. I don't know if I want to do that. And she's like, well, you're really good at it. It's natural. And I went, okay, we'll see. Next day, so this is maybe almost a year since my friend sent off the prints of my hand. Totally forgot about it. Next day, I get this call. Hey, my name's Vid. And I'm like, who are you? And he's like, your handprints, you have a very different pattern like very different. And your soul is speaking out to healing. You know, you would be a good healer and like a good counselor or shaman or energy, whatever, but this is your path. I mean, it was literally probably 8 hours later. And I said, "Oh, I'm kind of thinking of doing that." And he goes, "Yeah, that's really in alignment." So, yeah, then I went to graduate school. And while I was in graduate school, so growing up, I was highly intuitive and I was clairaudient. And I would have these spiritual experiences growing up where I heard voices, I saw energy everywhere. And um, I didn't, for years I thought everyone had that. I didn't know people didn't. And I just never gave it much thought. And in graduate school, we're in our last year, and we're in the gas station. It's back in the day when people would have their brochures at gas stations. And my friend pulls out a brochure and hands it to me. I think I talked about this on the last podcast and said, "You need to see this woman. I mean, maybe we should go see this woman for our graduation gift to ourselves." And she's kind of half joking. And I looked at the photograph and I just, my whole body reacted. And I didn't get her out of my head for 6 months. And I called her up, made an appointment. I walk in 6 months later, and the first thing she says is, "We've been waiting for you for 6 months." And then she blew my mind. So that was another revealing of I learned how to channel. Although I had been doing it organically, I shut it down. I got adulterated and it got shut down. And it took a long time for me to open it up, but it was this passion. I feel like the universe just stuck its finger on my forehead and I didn't have a choice almost. And it was this unrelenting drive to become this channel. And so, along with graduating and getting licensed, I became more of a proficient channeler. And so I would combine them. And if a person just wanted straight up counseling, that was good. And I got more into somatic healing and all the different modalities, internal family systems, dialectical behavioral therapy, all cognitive. And then sometimes I would do this amalgamation of the energy and the channeling. So I've been doing that for years, and Earth came to me about 10 years ago, and it started this massive Kundalini awakening that lasted 6 years, and things got really challenging in life. And I kept trying to walk away. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to do this path. I want to walk away. Not from the therapy, because that was my income, but from that spiritual path. And things would just, like the synchronicity of things just kept me coming back. And so at some point, I actually started doing the channeling of Earth for healing, did that for a while. And then that really fried my body and had a near-death experience and then came back with a lot of agency and clarity. And then really got to a place where, okay, I'm going to do therapy until I retire, and that's going to be a while yet, but I want to do something else that's more for me. And that's not so spiritual, that's more creative that I could do on the side. And I didn't know what that was. And I just started thinking about that a lot. And I always knew that you go back to your childhood where you did things for fun, right? What was organic, what was natural. And I started thinking more and more about that. And then I was driving out to Colorado and I was having a long conversation with my soul as I'm driving. And she's like, "You're about to find out what this is going to be, this side gig." And I said, "Oh, okay." And she goes, "No, I mean, like right now, you're going to find out." And I said, "What?" And then I drive through the outskirts of Bakersfield and I go through its season for neroli. And it's my favorite scent. And it's just so pungent. And I'm driving for miles, and I swear to God, I'm moved to tears by it. And I'm like, oh my God, it's perfume. That's what I've always wanted to do. I used to formulate as a kid. I've been formulating for years, but yeah, I've made serums, I distill my own hydrosols, and I'm like, I want to do perfumery and facial care. So I felt it. It was in my body. I knew it. And then, so that was in 2020. When was that? 2024, the spring of 2024. And then through that process has been this linking the healing work with Raya, which is the perfumery and the facial care, and making more of Raya as a ritualistic beauty. So when I create the serums and the perfumes, the perfumes are coming out in 2026. The serums, I plant the seeds with intention. I'll put crystals around them. They grow, they harvest, and I'm planting with intention. I'm saying, chanting, everything's love, you're love, everything's love, we are all love. Over and over and over. I put them in the sound bowl. I say that again. The plants are put into the oils for up to 28 days, and then they're filtered. And each day I sit in front of that oil and meditate and imprint it with the energies of Earth. And then in 2022 or three, Sun came to me and has been in me since. And so it's not just Sun, Earth, it's Sun, which creates balance, harmony, and love. And then as I bottle it, I'm also doing the same thing. So they're heavily infused. And when you put it on your face, whether it's the perfume on your wrist or your neck, or the serums and hydrosols, you want to say, pat it into your skin, and you're saying, I am loved and I am accepted as I am. And you say that over, and that's the ritual. And the plants are subtle energy medicine in which, especially the hydrosols, in which they can work in your nervous system and opening it up and softening. So I started that's how Vast Earth and Sun Raya work together. Um, okay. What's just recently happened? So I sit every day and have sat every day for years. And each day I sit, I meditate, and I channel, and I contemplate. And I've been going through years and years of release of density. And they have the energies, which speak as one, are saying you have some identity shifting coming. And have you ever heard of identity shifting?
Yeah.
So, it's a spectrum, right? So what's typical for, let's say, a woman who spends 80% of her day every day doing things on behalf of others, right? And then they get into their 50s or 60s and they say, I'm done. I don't want to do that. So that's one level. On a deeper level is a collapse of identity, a collapse of ego, a collapse of all those internal structures, lineage, and all that, right? And it's a very somatic experience because the whole nervous system collapses,
Yeah.
right? From being held in certain points of the nervous system, whether it's fight, flight, or dorsal. And that just occurred for me.
Mm.
And so it was it's been a lifetime, and I wasn't trying to get there, right? Um, and it just happened, and it happened fast, and it was very dramatic, and I'm processing that right now. Um, and that is what gets you to your soul, your destiny codes is in your body. So I'm really defining, and it just literally happened, and I'm walking around like so literally almost like I just took mushrooms.
Mhm.
And I feel pretty grounded now,
Mhm.
but I go. up and out, and then I go back in. And so I'm really present. I forget things. So I might, if I lose my train of thought, it's gone. I'm just constantly in the present now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's just a reorientation with my life.
Mhm.
And in work, it's really shifted because I can't, I mean, sometimes I've been letting my clients know like this work is shifting, we're going into silence. And
And I think just based on following Sandra and I don't follow too many other teachers of all anymore, but following her and my own experience, I'm quite confident more and more people are experiencing what you're experiencing and are about to. And
Mhm,
so you do have to talk about it in whatever way is your way. It doesn't mean
totally.
on a stage with 3 books. Of course, it can be with your clients, whatever. But yeah, I think it is important for people to communicate about that because others are going to be following.
That's what I've been told. And they're saying, there's not a lot of, and this isn't an ego statement because it's gone now. But not a lot of people are in this state, but a lot of people. When I say a lot, I'm not talking about masses, but more and more people are moving into this state and they need guidance because it's, for one, can be disorienting when it happens. It's everything shifts like that. And it can happen for some people in little bits, but it also can happen with, like this happened in 5 minutes.
Mhm.
And that's disorienting, right?
Yep.
And I was forewarned, but I didn't really know. You don't know. I mean, someone can tell you, but you don't really know what it feels like until you're in it. And it's a powerful way of healing. It's immense. It puts people into their state before they're ill or
Mhm.
imbalanced. It can. I, I mean, stay tuned. I
Yeah.
actually haven't done that yet, but what I've done thus far with people, they're having pretty phenomenal, pretty amazing outcomes. But it's
Mhm.
only been like 2 or 3 people, and it's been very minor.
Yeah.
But you're
Yeah.
right, more and more people are going to shift into this.
I do believe that.
I'm in coherence and resonance that puts people into coherence and resonance, right? So over the next month, I'll be getting into really deeply what I want, what my purpose is, because I've had an idea and I think it is along this line. I mean, I know Sun Raya is a part of it and it supports it with the ritualistic part of it and the subtle plant medicine part of it. Um, and it'll be probably going into this deep somatic healing, but also teaching it to people.
Sounds really beautiful, Rachel. I've definitely had flashes of that. And my primary spiritual teacher, Sandra Walter, talks about it quite a bit.
Uh-huh.
That process is very important to her and something she's experienced in iterations. So yeah, I do get it.
Yeah, it's really, I mean it's the energies, so it's an embodiment of create divine feminine and divine masculine or creator harmonized within
Yeah.
along with earth and sun. So it's been this deep embodiment and it's taken a while. They said it's going to take a good month to go
Yeah.
through it all. Uh,
Right.
and so
And for some people, it's an encounter with an embodiment of the I am presence of your particular I am presence.
yeah, I had it in the summer and then real recently I've had creator come in a massive energetic form where it
Mhm.
wakes me up and I know that it's there, right? And it speaks. And then I had one recently where I was just like, what is this? I've never experienced this before. Again, woke me up out of a deep sleep. So immensely powerful. And I hear, I'm the mother of all mothers. I'm the mother before the divine feminine. It's that primordial energy, right? The original, like the creation energy. So, anyways, that's that. But when it actually happened, it was very fast, minutes, and it just so
Mhm.
it's been yeah, it's been a process.
Beautiful. So,
And there's a spectrum of identity shifting, and one is a typical one, like I was telling you earlier, is a woman who's reaches her midlife, who's realized that she's been giving a significant portion of their day to other people, says, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. That's an identity shift. What's occurred with me is it happened immediately and deeply where I was sitting and I got incredibly clear about what I wanted. And I said, okay, this is actually what I want. Because I was asked, what do you want ahead of you? And I said it clearly, and then boom. And it was so physical and so fast of a letting go of a significant, I don't know how to put this into words because I'm still in it. This just happened. Um, like a significant portion of linear time has drifted away. So it's been challenging to run a business. Um, and the ego has dropped away, and the lineage that I came from, especially in the maternal side, has dropped away, and the identity of that, the good girl trap that we are all born into, has dropped away. Um, just everything that you think about when it comes to identity. So my personality, of course, still intact, but the inside of me and how I perceive the world has radically shifted in many ways. And it's still literally in the new process of this. And the physical sense, my body that was embracing mode, because I think for one, most parents, depending on the parent and depending on the kid and where they're at, we're in a level of hypervigilance. And my son has type 1 and celiac. Both my kids have some things that I have to, they're older now, but I spent years needing to monitor blood sugar and all that. So, you know, and then just the mommy mind. So we're in a level of hypervigilance, and then just things that have occurred in my life and in the way that I grew up in these identities and in the way that I actually held energy and worked with people was a lot of, I used to be quite, and I let go of this quite a number of years ago, but very sacrificial, but energetically giving too much. Just, yeah, a lot of that has shifted in the way I work. So my work is much more embodied. When people sit in front of me, I told them this is shifting in 2026. They sit in front of me, we go deep in the body, it's silence. I don't go into story. I feel where their blocks are, they feel it with me, and then we dissolve them. So it puts the body closer and closer to its original state before the imbalances occur, physical, mental, emotional. So this is still playing out and to be continued. In that letting go of identity, so this is part of the work that's forming, is this is my soul template of healing this way, of getting people to their soul templates, their destiny templates that are in the body, in the nervous system, getting them to a place where the layers of density release through the medicine of earth and sun, and it gets them to the place where they could actually feel what their purpose, deep purpose is in life. And so it's not just about healing, it's about this deep soul clarity. And that it's doing that kind of healing work and then also teaching it to people teaching it to people that can go and do this with other people, become practitioners of it. And I think, and I'm not clear on this and I don't know how it will happen, but what I've been told in my own sense is that there will be different layers of this.
Mhm.
So that's where I'm at right now. And yeah.
Oh, Rachel, I'm very moved actually because we haven't talked for a good while, and you know that I deeply love the herbal plant products you've been making, but yeah, I feel very moved by the way that all of this has developed for you in recent months, and it's really striking to me how for years you were bringing the somatic experience of the body into your counseling and healing and channeling of earth. And now you're bringing in this even more kind of precise or visceral or embodied aspect of actual earth-based products that can really work with the body. I'll just add there as an aside for people that they should get on the Raya mailing list, because I've never used facial products like the ones that you sent me last year.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, it really was like a moment of ceremony in my morning and my evening. And I think if you really are close to nature, like you and I are, finding any kind of product that really feels natural can be challenging in a certain way. And your products were really heart opening for me.
No, thank you so much.
Yeah, I can't wait for more. So there's a lot I want to ask you, but I think maybe this is the question that is most helpful for people next as they're listening to this conversation. How do you recommend that others be on their own path of soulful authenticity
Yeah,
if they want to be more on that path? And not that it would ever look identical to yours or mine, because that's not the point, but
right.
what do you think has helped you the most? Is it spending time in nature, your daily channeling and meditation practice? What is it that has enabled you to stay on a very purposeful, self-guided and unfolding path?
Well, one of it is, and this is me, and a lot of this, I almost felt like I didn't have a choice. Like this drive came from something else. Because, like I said, I have tried to leave it over and over. So, but that's a great question because there are things I could say that I think will help people. And one of my favorite forms of working with people is coaching around career change. It's fun. I love it. I could see their trajectories and which one feels more in balance. And there are things that you can do to really hone in on that. And one, I mean, you've mentioned a lot is earth clears density. So, for example, people come in with corporate work. And, we live in a world that requires us to pay the bills. And things are getting more expensive. It's challenging and it's scary to leave something that's been your security. I mean, I get it. I've done it. It's hard. It can be hard and it takes time. So that's the first thing is to just give yourself the time to shift. Some people will have an epiphany and they'll jump ship. And that can work. And I've done that. And I also did it blindly and it caused chaos. So, I'm now 61. So, in my wisdom of getting older, it's like time can be very helpful. And there is some of this path, changing lanes, so to speak, that can be mapped to a degree. And so, giving yourself time, like I was working with a woman yesterday where I was like, you got to give yourself a year. I just don't see what's happening for you. First of all, there's going to be some, 'cause she's very deeply spiritually involved in her own practices. And I said, you're moving into a place of being. Like I think she could go through something like what I've gone through, right? Because there are people there's going to be more and more people identity shifting. And so I said, but you've got to save money. She wants to maybe move out of the country. She wants to start a business. She's been doing corporate her entire life. And so I said, you got at least a year, but you have the light at the end of the tunnel, and that's going to keep you going. But so give yourself time. That's the one thing. If you're one of those people, which a lot of people are, is they don't know. And so it also takes time to know. And the way you get to know is one, you look for synchronicity. And they could be really small things of, oh, like I know mine was a really obvious synchronistic moment, but I went from being in ceremony to the person calling me the next day, right? That's a hit yourself over the head type of synchronicity. But there are smaller ones where someone gives you a book. So with the perfumery, for example, here's a perfect example. I was like, can I do this? I mean, I don't, I've taken a few classes and I've been in an intensive program now for a year and I'm getting certified in it, but a lot of people learn perfumery on their own. But I decided to go the school route. But as I was just thinking about it, my friend's sister says, oh, you're thinking about perfumery? Someone gave me all these books, and I think they're about perfumery. I'll go look. And they were all like very important perfume books. She gave them to me. So it's that kind of synchronicity, right? It was like, I think both this happened with my licensing for therapy and perfumery. I wonder what programs are out there, what schools. And it's like, oh, look, it's tomorrow. And there's a whole new programming starting in a week, that kind of thing. So you're looking for windows, you're looking for alignment that way, and it's not going to always be, and most of the time, it probably won't be hit yourself over the head synchronicity, but little things. And the other thing is going back to what do I do in my spare time that I love? What did I love as a kid? What was I thinking? What made me feel, what gave me energy? What felt flow? Um, like one woman she's like, I just love athletics. And so I said, okay, just for the next few weeks, just sit with being maybe a personal trainer. Just sit with that and see what happens. You're not planning, you're not nothing. Just see what happens. And so little synchronicity started. And she got more and more excited. And through that, you have to be careful you can tell when something's more aligned with your body, with your soul, when it sustains. Okay, like you can get the quick hit rush, and then that momentum's gone a month or two later. And that's why giving yourself time is really important. Um, it's the things that you keep returning to over and over, or that keep coming back to you, thoughts, dreams, all that stuff over a period of time. So sitting with it and then just seeing how your body feels. Does your stomach clench up? And you have to be, in order for this to work, you can't be sitting in a state of fear, like, how am I going to make money? That's not going to work. It's like, okay, I'm just going to just see how my body reacts to the idea of doing X, Y, or Z. And if it opens up and softens, that's an indication to just go, okay, now I'm going to sit with this and just see what happens. And then as you move closer, see if that sustains and look for those things that open up. And the more that synchronicity comes in, the more is showing you something. And it's aligned synchronicity. You can also have, I have seen this in my life and I've seen it with other people where I went in the direction of this is not synchronistic anymore. Like there is a period, clearly with the photography, not so much in relationship to 9/11, but where it just no longer was in alignment and energetic hurdles would start to happen. So I would lose, we went into digital photography, I would lose stuff, or cameras would break, or people would cancel, or all sorts of things where it became more and more chaotic. And that's also a sign that this is moving out of balance. And yeah, I mean, we all have moments where life throws us curveballs, but then there's this sustained motion of either balance or imbalance. So those are some practical tips, I would say, for really getting in touch.
I think that's really helpful. Do you want to say anything about how you guide people if they say, I don't feel very spiritually or intuitively connected to my path?
Right.
Because I think what you just laid out is very, very hopeful. Kind of watch for the signs in your life, watch how your body is feeling, see what passions and inclinations are sustainable and continuous. What's your take on ways people can open up more to the guidance that is available uniquely to them?
Um, One is paying attention, like I said, to the body because the body doesn't lie. The mind will lie. The body doesn't lie. And so something that's not in alignment is going to restrict, typically in the chest, the gut, and sometimes the throat. Something that is going to feel more aligned is the lower energy centers. So in the womb or groin area, the stomach area softens. The warmth can come up into the solar plexus in the gut. The heart area can open up, and these could be subtle, but they could also just be pretty knowing. So that, and then sometimes going to therapy and talking about it, talking about the fear, going to healers channels, because what can happen? So you're talking about people that are open-minded or totally not like shut down that
Who
way.
are open and want to feel more connected.
Okay. So sometimes why going to someone like a coach or a channel, maybe someone like you do really great work with the Akashic, right? And so let's say you're telling someone something. So in therapy, I do what's called casting. And that's where I'm throwing out an idea. And it either lands or it doesn't. And both are good because usually when it doesn't land, it helps people to get really clear. They'll go, no, it's not that. It's actually more this. So let's say you're working with someone and you're saying stuff, and if it's landing, like, oh wow, that feels right. That's that's good. That's a pebble on the path leading you forward. But let's say it's like, God, I just am not feeling that at all. That can also be good because part of figuring out what to do is figuring out what not to do. I mean, that's really most of life, right? And so seeking help is important. Listening to your dreams is important. Asking people around you, like my friend coming up to me and saying, you'd be a great therapist. You should think about that. Ha Just asking friends that know you, or if you're close with your family members, saying, what do you think? I want to do something different. What do you think would jive with me? And getting their input. So part of it is just kind of cracking your mind open more into ways. Like for me, it was smelling the neroli. I mean, it just dropped it in immediately, right? And then it made sense. But it's sometimes, and I certainly get this way, you get so myopic, right? That you're not seeing all the signs or the things that really used to groove your chili, right? So when you allow yourself the time to focus in on it with someone that could help guide you there, I think can be a very important part of the process. And or asking those people close in your life, what do you think? And they'll tell you typically. Or they'll ask you the questions that you need to be asked. Like, well, what matters to you? Like I was saying to my son last night, because he's 25 trying to figure out life. He graduated, it's a strange world out there for kids graduating. And he's just like, I don't know, because at one point I threw something out to him and it was like this intuitive piece because I just spoke it without thinking. Because he is type 1, I said, you graduated in sociology, you're so interpersonal, coaching families with diabetes you'd be excellent. And so that's landed with him. But he was saying, I just don't know, I'm trying to figure things out. And I said, well, it sounds to me like you've kind of gone farther out from your body and your heart, and that maybe you need to circle back around, like you're getting stuck in the mind of this. And that I mean, there's a time and place for the mind, but also there's a time and place for the body and the heart. And when you get to that place where you just don't know and you're feeling lost, you got to go back to the body and the heart. And it's also okay to ask for help because having those questions framed to you helps you get clear. And so that's where I would go with people that um, want more of that clarity.
Yeah, I think that makes sense because when we're feeling really stuck and maybe lost, we're probably always in a state of being dissociated from our own bodies, I'm guessing. You probably cannot be connected to your body and totally lost, or maybe that's unusual. So that somatic piece and the heart energy piece, really important.
Yeah, and then you have to look at how do I make this work? How do I make it financially work? And that too is where professionals can come in or, family, friends. And you might know, I mean, the person might know, I know exactly how to scale, you know? And then the other thing is like with Sun Raya, it's such a personal thing for me. I mean, it's my joy. One of the things before the identity shift happened and the energies within are saying, what is it you really want? And I was like, honestly, I got really clear. I said, honestly, I just want to spend time with the flowers, the plants. That's really honestly all I want to do. And then it went bam, 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 bam. My whole nervous system went into a new place. Everything shifted. And so when I create, I got really clear. I'm like, I do not want this to get huge. I don't care about it getting massive. That's not the purpose. The purpose for me with this business was at first it was something I could retire into, and I'd still like that. But it's not to get to a point where it's out of my hands. It's got to stay in flow. It's got to stay personal. And if it starts to get that way, I'll just start to lock it down. Right. So you can get into these, like once you step onto that path, it changes too, and that's okay. But it was a very much a visceral experience. So look for those visceral experiences.
So helpful. So tell us where people can find you. Vast Earth.
So Vast Earth is vast-earth.com. And on there is a link to sunrayaperfumes.com. And I can make a coupon code of, uh, so we could call it, what should we call it? Align?
Sure.
Is it ALIGN, right? Align 20, all
Okay.
capital. And I'll create that today so people can get 20% off when they hear this podcast. I don't ship right that day because I work full time. So I usually ship Mondays and Fridays, and I'm closed over the holidays. I mean, if they want to get some, I don't know, when is this?
This will probably release in January.
Okay, great. So that's even better. So yeah, just so people know, I only ship once or twice a week. And 20% off, Sunraya, SUNRAYA perfumes, plural, not singular.com. And I'll be putting the other thing about Sunraya is I do small batch. And so when it's out, and they shift. So I try to do it with the seasons. And the perfume has yet to be, I don't know when that's going to be, sometime in 2026. And oh, by the way, also with these, all the formulations are downloaded from Earth and Sun. They tell me what plants to put together. Then I research it because you got to look out for contraindicators, right? I do put in pure essential oil. I keep it below 3% of the total. And that's what's recommended, but if you have allergies, you definitely want a skin test. Um, the plants, there's quite a few plants in there. But it's usually things like chamomile and calendula and lavender that are rose. A lot of people are allergic to rose. So the products shift, and there's going to be more and more hydrosols, and the hydrosols are really good for identity shifting, going deeper in the body, somatic embodiment work as well. And they're great for your skin, and they're great for clearing energy, clearing your energy. So if you're empathic like you and I, they're really good. I carry it around in my purse. I'm always spraying myself for the skin too, because it moisturizes it, locks in the hydration. But it also clears me between clients. It clears me when I come out of stores. So lavender, there's different ones.
Oh, beautiful. I am tremendously excited to see what keeps unfolding with that. And I don't recommend just any product, but I am completely in love with what you've been creating. And I want it on my body and in my field. So thank you so much,
Thank you so
Rachel,
much.
for more.
I really appreciate you having me on here and giving me the time to discuss all this. It's important for people to hear, get into what feels right for them. It's a huge difference in one's life, and you're giving them the vehicle to get there. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Rachel. It was really wonderful to connect with you today.
You too.